You're listening to Be Radiant Radio. You are made of light and you are made to shine. Positive, uplifting, and helpful. Welcome to the show where you'll get informational and inspirational ideas on how to unleash your potential, get what you want in life, and shine like you're meant to. Hello, beautiful, shining you who are listening in today. Welcome to Be Radiant Radio. I'm your host, Angela Loeb, and today I'm pleased to have special guest Shelley Pernot back on the program for part 2 of Mindfulness in a Hectic World. I have a few friends who have been excited about tuning in, so I'm real excited about bringing mindfulness topic again. When we did this program before, we already knew that we needed a part 2. So that's because Shelley just wants to give us more tips, and I'm pretty excited about that. And today we're going to explore meditation some more, so I'm really cool. I think that's cool that we'll get to talk more about meditation. And, last time I talked about Shelley's background, and she has a considerable amount of wisdom and expertise from working worldwide in the global energy field, like she worked for companies like Exxon and BP. And you can read more about her and her story online because earlier this year she founded True North Development, and her website is truenorthdevelop.com. And on her site, she talks about her background. And so I'm going to say go to her site, read more about her, and let's not go into detail about that. Instead, let's go ahead and dive really into this topic today. We have a lot we want to talk about, so I want to get in there. So let me welcome Shelley. Shelley, welcome to the program. I'm so glad you're back. I'm ready to go deeper. Are you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me back.
Yeah, so last time we talked about a fundamental definition of mindfulness, and I have from my notes from that time, and you clarified for us that it's the practice of focusing awareness in the present moment, which I just love that definition because, that's a present moment is I can get my head around that. And I think there's so many benefits to doing this. There's so many health studies that have come out about this. Mindfulness is so important to our health and our well-being. And during that program last time, you mentioned that meditation is an important part of the mindfulness practice. So today I'm pretty excited about going a little bit more into detail about that. You're going to give us some more tips, right? So what I'd like us to do is really start off by just generally broadly defining definition. And what is it exactly and why is it important? So if you can kind of start us there, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Happy to do that. So the way I define meditation is it's the practice of developing space between thoughts. And I'll repeat that. It's the practice of developing space between thoughts, which may be slightly different than some folks may be thinking when they think of the word meditation, because the distinction that I want to point out there is that meditation isn't about not thinking anything at all. I think often when folks start to think about meditation, it's like, in order to do that, you've got to clear your mind and not think anything, which is really impossible at the end of the day.
I would second that. I totally agree with you there.
I mean, and one of the reasons it is so impossible, and I may have mentioned this on the last program, but we think on average 10,000 thoughts a day. That's the average person.
I've heard it's even more than that. So I believe you.
Wow. Oh. Yeah, people with really active brains, maybe it's 20. But at least 10,000 thoughts a day. And so what you're really doing in meditation is you're allowing your thoughts to be there and float in and float out, and you're looking at the space between them. And over time, the goal with meditation is start to recognize your thoughts for what they are. They're just thoughts.
Yeah.
They're thoughts that can easily dissolve. And you start to see that really you're the consciousness behind those thoughts. But, thoughts they're kind of tricky things. It's really easy to get attached to them, particularly when they're thoughts about judgments, whether it's a judgment about ourselves, it's a judgment about somebody else. So the more you can start to see your thoughts as just thoughts and things that can dissolve, the more you really start to be able to come into the present moment. One of the best ways I've heard this described And so I'll share with you. I did a meditation retreat for 2 weeks at the Shambhala Center in Red Feather Lakes in Colorado, and it wasn't for the faint-hearted. It was 2 weeks of meditating all day long.
I would say 2 weeks. Oh my gosh, I can't sit still and do this for like 10 minutes, much less 2 weeks. Oh my goodness.
In some respects, if I had known what I was getting into, like I may have bit off a bit more than I could chew, but needless to say, I survived. And the head meditation instructor described it as you're peacefully abiding with your thoughts. So you're not trying to push them out of your mind. You're just peacefully abiding with what's there, and then you're seeing those spaces in between them as they come and go.
So it's kind of like you're accepting, it's practicing acceptance, right? So I accept that I'm having this thought. I'm accepting that. Because if you think about it, you're thinking about not thinking. That's thinking in itself. So I really sometimes struggle with it. I'm like, I'm supposed to clear my mind. I'm not supposed to think. Wait a minute, I'm thinking about not thinking. And this is this metacognition thing. And the next thing you know, I'm thinking about not thinking, and then I'm beating myself up. And that's not meditation.
And that's judgment, which you don't want to do. We get into a lot of trouble with judgment. And so what you just hit on there, and thanks for bringing that up, Angela, that's a commonly held meditation myth, that you've got to quiet your mind and think nothing at all. And there's a lot of meditation myths out there, frankly.
Yeah, last time we talked about that, you had said that there was a meditation myth, a list, I believe, from Deepak Chopra's website, if I recall.
There is.
So what do you find are the common myths that people hold besides, that it's all about being, no thoughts?
Sure. Yeah. There's 7 that I think are really interesting that he's got on his website, and I would encourage your listeners to actually go and seek out Chopra's website and read these meditation myths, because he spends a lot of time debunking them. But I'll go through them if it's okay with you. The few that I think are
we have time. Go ahead and tell us what the 7 are. That would be great.
Great. Okay. So the first one is meditation is difficult.
Well, I mean, 2 weeks worth. Maybe 2 weeks worth of meditation might be difficult, right?
That was challenging. but it doesn't.
Really sitting down for 10 minutes and then noticing the space between the thoughts, I guess that can make it easier. And last time, you actually had us do what I think is called box breathing or 4 square breathing. And that was not hard at all. That was super easy.
Not at all. Yeah, and that's something you can do at any point in time. No one will even know you're doing it. You could do it right before you go into a difficult meeting. You could do it during the difficult meeting. But yeah, so coming back to the point, meditation is difficult. I think this myth has arose because of a number of things. It's because people think they have to quiet their mind. It's because they think they've got to do it for a long period of time in order to get any benefit from it. It's those things like that we tell ourselves, or maybe you hear somebody say it at one point, and then you take that on as truth. So I'm here to bust myth number 1, that meditation is difficult. It's really not. And as we get more into the mechanics of it, you'll see why, actually.
Yeah.
So that's number 1, myth number 1. Myth number 2 is exactly that. You have to quiet your mind in order to have a successful meditation practice.
Right.
And so
we just talked about that, yeah.
So I think we've spent plenty of time debunking that one already, so I'll move on to number 3. Number 3 is it takes years of dedicated practice to receive any benefits from meditation. So it's this whole notion of meditation is something that you have to master. There's mastery. Like you think of the monk, the levitating monk, that this monk can do it perfectly, and I'm never going to be able to do it perfectly, and so I'm not even going to try.
And that's what judgmentalism, right, Shelley, where you judging yourself. I mean, I'm not doing this right. I don't know if I'm doing it right, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just finished writing a chapter of my book on that, on mindfulness. It's beyond the levitating monk. If we keep looking to that as the aspiration, we'll never get there. So that's myth number 3. Myth number 4. This is my favorite because this is the one that trips me up the most. Meditation is escapism. Meditation is escapism. So, for instance, I just don't have time to meditate because I've got so many more important things I need to do, and if I meditate, I'm escaping from the harsh reality in which I live. A lot of people view meditation as escapism. Like you're tuning out.
Oh, like you're going to bliss out, and you're not.
Yeah, you're blissing out. It's a woo-woo hippie.
Oh, okay.
It's a woo-woo hippie with the crystals. You're all zened, and it's for those people. It's for those people that can't live in the real world, so they have to escape the real world. And I'm here to completely blow that one, because the bottom line is real people meditate. It's interesting because I looked this up the other day, and in preparation for this program, I'm like, let me just Google and see, famous people that meditate. So Oprah Winfrey, she meditates, runs probably the most successful broadcasting company in the world, and all of her staff meditate too. They actually ring a bell at certain times of day at her company, and folks meditate, which I thought was really interesting. So it's actually built into the corporate culture there.
Yes, who meditates, I found out recently. My financial advisor.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm not surprised, actually. Well, it's an important job, dealing with people's money. You want a clear head.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, and he meditates with his staff. They do a guided meditation every morning before they get started the day.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of financial people, okay, one person I found as well, a billionaire, Ray Dalio, who runs the Bridgewater hedge fund. He meditates daily, and he actually credits meditation with his success for giving him the focus and clarity he needs to do what he has to do. And the list goes on and on. Rupert Murdoch, the media mogul. I mean, folks that you would think would never meditate. They're doing it. And they're doing it on a daily basis or a regular basis. So, so that's the meditation is escapism myth. Myth number 5 is I don't have enough time to meditate. So I think this one probably trips up a lot of folks. You're rushing around in the morning. You're trying to get the kids ready for school. You're making breakfast, whatever it is. I don't have time to meditate. Even if it's just for 2 minutes. Meditation doesn't have to be one of these things that you sit there for an hour or 2 or 2 weeks in my case.
No, I think just sitting quietly, closing your eyes, and like you said, noticing your thoughts, and then slowing down and noticing the space between them. I think that could take like maybe 5 minutes. Absolutely.
You could even do it in the shower. When you're in the shower, it's like just try meditating in the shower. Why not? It doesn't have to look a certain way. And I think this is where people trip themselves up. You got to really make the time. You have to get like a meditation cushion. You have to get a Buddha or something. Who knows? But the bottom line is, you can do it anywhere.
Walking a labyrinth doesn't take very long, and that's a walking meditation, actually.
That's a wonderful form of walking meditation.
I tried that. I tried that recently, and it is amazing. I thought, it was outside. It was a beautiful nature area around this gorgeous tree that I did this labyrinth. It was just like, this is meditating. I'm meditating.
Totally.
Yeah,
and you hit on something important. You don't have to be sitting down to meditate. And we'll come on to that actually in a little bit more detail. But there are forms of walking meditation, and you just mentioned one of them is walking a labyrinth. Even something that is a bit of a ritual, maybe even making your morning coffee. If like there's a certain way in which you do it, that can be sacred. That can be meditative. So it's looking for those opportunities to calm the mind.
Well,
great example.
It's mindfulness, right? It's being present.
Exactly. So that leads me to number 6. Meditation is a spiritual or religious practice. So that's myth number 6.
That's the one that tripped me up for years. That's the one that got me.
It tripped a lot of people up.
I avoided meditation for a long time because I thought it would be like I had to be Buddhist or something. Or that I had to do it. My mom kept saying, you need to meditate, and she's real woo-woo. And I was like, no, I don't know about that.
Right.
You're into astrology and how crystals work and all that kind of stuff. And, of course, I'm very tolerant. I'm totally cool with people, interested in all of that. And I have, friends who are into it, and that's cool and everything. But I like meditation is like part of that stuff, that hippie stuff.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. So yeah, so it trips a lot of people up. I think there is that association still that it's praying of some sort. When I run meditation workshops, for corporations, I'll often call it centering. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes meditation is associated with the word spiritual or religious, and again, it's just a way of stilling your mind and seeing space between thoughts. There's no dogma, there's no philosophy really associated with that. It's just a practice of stilling your mind. So number 6, that was number 6. And number 7, this one I thought was quite interesting, actually, and often a myth that more experienced meditators will have. But I'm supposed to have transcendent experiences in meditation. So what that means is, by transcendent, I'm supposed to see colors. I'm supposed to feel like I'm floating. If I'm not having like some amazing experience, then I'm not doing it right. And that's not how it works. Again, it's not about seeing colors. It's not about feeling really zoned out or, tripped out or feeling like you're floating on a cloud. Although it is going to obviously calm you down. It's not about that. Again, it's just that practice of developing that space between your thoughts. So those are the
and again,
myths.
There's nothing wrong with that, right? If you get to have experiences like that, but maybe that if you like you think you're supposed to, it's about letting it. I guess the myth is let that go. Let
if
go.
If you think you're supposed to, let it go. And the other thing I would say is where it can become a little bit dangerous is when you become attached to that. So, if you are having those types of experiences, fair enough. But the problem is when you start to become attached to that experience. Again, just let it go. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Doesn't matter either way.
Right. I like that. So if someone's listening and they say, okay, Shelley, you've debunked these myths for me, Deepak Chopra and you. Yeah, you got it going on. I get it. I'm in. I want to try it. So what do I do next? I mean, how do you advise beginners to get started? I mean, last time we talked about the 4-part breathing, but
sure.
Do you have any other advice for beginners to get started into meditation and mindfulness like this?
It just so happens I do.
Of course you do. That's why I invited you onto the show. So please, carry on. Tell us.
And I'm gonna share with you a framework for meditation, and it has 6 parts. And I like this framework because it's simple and it's easy to remember. And this
yes, and I like it when you give us numbers, when you say there are 6 things to do.
There's 6 things to do. And the bottom line is try it on. If you find that you want to do 3 out of the 6, or 4 out of the 6, fair enough. This is a suggestion. This is a framework. This isn't a you
so it's
have
not like you have to do all of these things. If you're beginning, you don't have to do all of. Okay, cool, got it.
Exactly. So it's a framework, and this was taught to me by an amazing yoga teacher and friend of mine named Chokai, who I credit this framework with, actually. And he's passed it on to me to pass it on to others and help them. And so the first piece of this is intention. Okay, so when I teach this for UT, I always ask the question, what does it mean when I say to start with an intention? Mm-hmm. So what would that mean to you? I'm curious.
So I have taken yoga classes, so I get what you're saying, because the yoga instructor that I have seen for many years, she does it's like a restorative yoga, and it's so relaxing. It's totally it's not like energetic, high power, athletic kind of yoga. So she always starts us with an intention. So what is your intention for practice? What is like an intention? So usually it's like, okay, gratitude or healing or something like that. Like I'll think of a word of what it is, and that has meaning to me as to what I want to bring either to the practice that night or to my day or my, whatever. So that's what I usually think of.
Beautiful. And it can even be more simple than that. It can even be just making up your mind to do it. For whatever it is, whether it's 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, make up your mind just to do it and set that goal.
Okay, so the intention of doing it for 5 minutes.
The intention of just even doing it. I'm going to make this so simple.
Got it.
So you'll be wondering, people will be wondering why they haven't been meditating before. Just make up your mind. and set your intention and do it.
Okay.
Got it. So that's the first. That's the first step. The second step is asana. So what I mean by that is, I think I mentioned before I also teach yoga. And when we're doing yoga, we're doing asanas or postures. So by calling attention to asana is the second part of meditating. That means calling attention to your posture. So if you're doing a sitting meditation, you're sitting on the floor, how are you sitting? Can you actually feel the earth beneath you? Is your spine straight? Is your heart open? And that's a really important part of meditation, is actually having a stance or a frame that's open. Because the more open your posture is, the more open you're going to be to receiving whatever comes to you. Right. And that goes for walking meditation as well as sitting. You want to be walking with a straight spine. You want to be walking with your heart open. And I tell you, because I'm someone who suffered from bad posture, for a long time. I'm 6'1", and I developed like a bit of a stoop because I was always trying to hide my height. When I was younger. Opening myself up.
I'm 5'9", so I get you. I'm with you. I understand.
You get the pain. You get all the jokes. When you were a kid and everything. So for me, opening my chest, my heart chakra up, really kind of opening that up, and just sitting there was really difficult at first for me. I tell you, it improved my posture, something amazing. But that physical opening of myself made a huge difference for me in meditation. And so your posture is important. If you need to sit in a chair, fair enough. For some people it's hard for them to sit without something behind their back. But are you sitting upright? So think about how you're sitting and make sure that you've got the right posture. It's amazing the benefits that brings to you when you've got the right posture when you're meditating.
Okay.
So that's asana. It's simple.
So what's the third one?
So the third, and you mentioned it actually. I love it. Gratitude. So
I love it. We're on the same brainwave. So how is gratitude important in mind? And I just say gratitude because it's a feel-good feeling. So how is it important in meditation?
It's so interesting because that's always the question I ask my students. Why would gratitude be important? Because it kind of, what I love about gratitude, and when I think of gratitude when I'm meditating, I focus on my heart. I think of all the things that I'm grateful for in my life, and it brings me back to myself. It helps me to steady my thoughts, and it makes the present moment enough. I actually heard that once from a student. I loved it. She said, when you're grateful, where you are, the present moment, it's just enough. It's enough on its own. Yeah. So gratitude's important. I do it as step 3 in my meditation process. So it's part of these 6 pillars. I then focus on my heart. I think of a few things I'm grateful for. That really starts to bring me back to myself. And then I move on to step 4, where I start to focus on my breath. So one thing I often ask students, when I'm teaching this is, well, how should you be breathing? What's the point of breath? And it's almost a trick question a bit, because it's not about how you're breathing. It's just that you're becoming aware of your breath. That's the whole point of the breath step.
Right, and that brings you into that mindfulness, that moment, right? Because now you're focused on that one thing.
Exactly. You don't have to slow your breath down. You don't have to speed it up. You don't have to even do square box breathing. You can just breathe, and just feeling the breath itself. That's the practice of meditation. You're feeling that life force, that prana. Prana is the word in Sanskrit for breath or life force, and you're connecting with that, and that starts to really, again, bring you into your being. So it's just a simple effort of noticing your breath. You don't have to do anything crazy, funky, weird with your breath.
Okay.
So then that leads me. Just notice it. Notice it. That's it, that breath, that life force, that prana. And then that brings me to the 5th step, which is silence. So just sitting in silence, noticing your breath.
What you mean by silence is not don't put music on or something. It means just
you could.
sitting in silence.
You could, actually. I mean, and there are some folks who do guided meditations, and I'm not against that at all. I think if it works, do it. And if it's a way of getting your mind to focus on the present, fair enough. But just that beautiful thing of silence in and of itself is gorgeous.
Right.
When you start to think about it, that space in between words, that space that's there. It's
in between breathing, in between the breath, or noticing the silence between your breathing, too.
Yes. Yeah. So silence is magic. Silence is really, really golden. And then the last piece of it, and this is an interesting one, is mantra. So, there's some people that talk about, well, I always say or I have a mantra that I say, or, what is mantra? Why is this important? I always end my meditation repeating a mantra, a really simple one, and it's I am, I have, I give. And it's a mantra is just a simple way of focusing your mind. That's all it is. That's all it is. And I find it's a really nice way to end the meditation and send something beautiful out into the world. You can say it out loud. You can think it in your head. Either one works. So those are
that's
awesome.
So just real quick, then I'll say them because we have about 4 or 5 minutes left. So I
know the time has just flown.
I know. So let's just say them real quick. Intention. Asana, gratitude,
posture,
breath. Yeah, silence and mantra. Perfect. Okay, got it. So I'm going to type these up and I'm going to put them on the page so everybody can see. So before we go, I have one more quick. Hopefully we can answer this quickly. If we can't, that's fine. The whole point of it is this is something you teach in your class at University of Texas, so they can go to your class if they want to learn more about it. But mindfulness blocks. So you're trying to practice mindfulness.
Yeah.
And you have mindfulness blocks. What is it?
Okay, so you've opened up Pandora's box because this is like a 30-minute question.
Okay, so we won't talk about that today in detail, but what is it? We have mindfulness blocks to mindfulness?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of time talking about mindfulness blocks in that course I teach for UT. And so what a mindfulness block is, it's a recurring thought or feeling that reduces awareness of the present moment. So I'll say it again. A recurring thought or feeling that reduces awareness of the present moment. And we spend a lot of time on that program actually identifying mindfulness blocks. And we all have ones that trip us up. Anxiety, frustration, worry, self-doubt, shame, guilt. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Yeah, self-judgment. Yeah.
Self-judgment, judgment of others, anger, insecurity, fear. There's a lot of mindfulness blocks that can trip a person up. There's actually a term for it in Buddhism. It's called shimpas. And it refers to something that hooks you. That's what the literal translation of that means. It's something that hooks you. It's like a tape you keep replaying in your mind over and over and over over.
Yeah, we all have. I see what you're saying. And so in the course you talk about that and tell people how to recognize them and get rid of them, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yeah, we spend a lot of time working on it. For each person, we have enough time to maybe get into like 2 of their mindfulness blocks. And I talk about a framework that really helps reduce the blocks, and we spend a lot of time working with that. And maybe I can come back and talk about it. Who knows?
Yeah. I would love to have you in the future again. That would be cool. We could do yet a whole new 30 minutes, like you said, on just this one topic. So
So
we are running out of time, but I did want to give everybody your website again. It's true, and I'm going to have it on the page too, but it's truenorthdevelop.com.
Correct.
And I know you have a class coming up in UT, so would you send me the link, and that way I'll share that too on the page?
Absolutely.
So people can see that. Awesome. So that takes us to the end of the program. Woo, lickety-split, just like that. My next show is on February 7th, and my guest is going to be Delilah Blake of the Curiosity School. I can't wait to have Delilah on the show. She is so awesome. Yeah, you know her too, don't you, Shelley? She's
creative,
really cool.
So creative she is. Wow.
Yes, I can't wait. Thank you so much for being on the show today. This was like so fun to talk about this topic. I appreciate you. And I want to send my thanks out to everybody else who's tuned in today. And I know there are, like I said, several friends who are interested in this program, so I know they'll be downloading and listening to the recording later, too. And I am going to just close the show by saying, please be well, practice mindfulness, keep shining like you're meant to. Thanks so much again, Shelley. I appreciate you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you, Angela.